This is Human Essence, and in today's video, I'm going to be reacting to the cross-examination of Wendi Adelson. I'm filming this one from Court TV. I usually listen to it on the Tallahassee Democrat station, but it was too hard to find what I was looking for on that station, so this is Court TV, so I guess to give them credit or whatever, because they were in there, they filmed this. So here we go, and now you'll see throughout, Rashbaum sounds like he's representing Wendi. He's giving her the opportunity to explain everything away, that she intended to stay in Tallahassee, that she had plans for the fall, etc. And Charlie and his whole story, you were extorted to be extorted and extorted and extorted. I don't know, extorted cubed, extorted squared, whatever it is, that doesn't come up. It's all about protecting Wendi. Okay, let's listen and I'll react. Okay. He's just blinking, and he does blink frequently. That's like a thing that he does. It's not like you can really look at that as a sign of stress with him, because he seems to have like a tendency to blink like this. So I'm just gonna fast forward a little bit to get to where Rashbaum actually is cross-examining. Okay.
Lunch at a place called Mosaic. Yes.
Oh, that's the lunch.
But you had to pick up a bottle of...
That's the best line in the entire trial. You were going to Mosaic, but you had to pick up a body. Now, if you need to explain that drive-by, I don't think anybody's been thinking, oh, she was going to pick up the body so that nobody would find it. But obviously this ran through Rashbaum's mind, because this is what he said. Yes, anyway, you can't make this stuff up, but there's that line.
I don't know if it's bourbon or whiskey. I don't even know if they're the same things, but bullet whiskey.
Obviously, he doesn't drink. He doesn't know if it's bully or whiskey. I think it's rye. But anyway, he's now going to let us know how that had nothing to do with anything. Somebody had specifically said, bring bullet, rye, whiskey, whatever it is. And she went in there with her blue contact lenses and did exactly as she was told, because of that was when it's what was in the email. So how could she be involved in any kind of murder when she's actually followed her email to the thing, and she didn't even pick up a body?
It was bourbon.
Okay.
Bourbon. That funny.
It was for your friend's wedding shower that night?
They were having us stock the bar party, so they asked for specific kinds of
No one
alcohol
cares.
to stock
No
the
one
bar.
cares about any of this. This is completely irrelevant. Why are we talking about this? Okay,
showing you what's marked as Defense Exhibit 32. Is this the invitation that you received?
Okay, now she received an invitation to the Stock the Bar party, and they told her to buy the bullet bourbon. So obviously her brother is not guilty of anything. What's this got to do with anything? Wendi's not on trial.
Yes, that's it.
So what is he doing? Charlie's a lost cause, so
Judge,
I'll try to protect Wendi.
Defense Exhibit 32 into
Charlie's
evidence
giving the side-eye to his lawyer and making his lips narrow, holding back what he wants to say to him, which would not be nice. It might be some of those memes that Donna uses in her emails. The other lawyer's probably speaking to him. She's more comforting.
The objection is sustained. She may testify as to her.
Do you recall on the left-hand corner of the invitation, it says, help the bride and groom stock the bar for their wedding and bring a bottle of Bullet bourbon. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Well, he should just rest his case now. The email said that she should bring Bullet bourbon. Everyone's innocent. Thanks for listening. I'll continue with this.
You can put that aside. Now, you decided to go to ABC Liquors on Bedden Road to look for the bourbon, right?
I did.
Okay. You're not a big drinker, is that?
She's not a big drinker, and she's got a terrible sense of direction. And you can read or listen to the excerpt in her book. The character that she wrote about, Attorney Lily, had a terrible sense of direction. I don't know if Attorney Lily drove by any crime scenes of anybody and went to a liquor store and bought a Bullet bourbon and used the blue contact lenses, but the character in there had a bad sense of direction. She probably would have driven all over Tallahassee to get some whatever Bullet bourbon, rye, or whatever, the whiskey, whatever it was.
Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say.
That's fair.
You went to that store because you were familiar with it?
I'd seen it close to my house, so.
Just pointing out now that Charlie is stifling a yawn. I can't imagine that all of the jury members would be awake now, but they're going to convict him anyway, so they don't need to know the details about what bourbon she bought or where she drove, because she's not on trial.
Close to your old house?
Close to my old house.
There could have been liquor stores that were closer to your current house?
Sure.
There is one. There was one. We can look that up.
Now, when you drove to ABC Liquor, you tried to go through Trescott. Is that fair to say?
It was blocked.
Can you imagine? She tried to take this shortcut, and it was blocked. And why was it blocked? Probably due to weather. Some people said you can look up the weather back at those times. I did. It was fine weather. But I don't know about what kind of weather it was just on that street. Maybe it was different weather only on Trescott. So maybe all the tree branches were coming down, and maybe they had to, call out all the police and the ambulances and everybody block off the street because of the tree branches based on that weather on only that street. Okay, now let's continue to see what they have to say.
There are other ways to go to ABC Liquor, right? You could have gone down other roads.
I don't have the best sense of direction, so when I find the route, I just kind of keep you.
I don't know anything about that. I don't have a good sense of direction. Look how cute I am. Look how relatable I am to the jury, who also would get lost to the liquor store.
Using that route, I don't look for something else.
Okay.
And now Charlie's looking at her like, really? I'm going to prison for the rest of my life for her.
You got to Mosaic at around 1 p.m.
That sounds right.
And your lunch was interrupted by Investigator Isom, who told you that something had happened.
That's right.
Hi there. I'm just going to interrupt your lunch. Something happened. Would you please get in the police car right now, and I won't tell you anything?
You went with him voluntarily to speak
I did.
with him? You let police search your car?
Yes.
You were interviewed with the investigator from approximately 2:45 p.m. until 7:50 p.m.?
Yes.
He told you that your ex-husband had been shot and was unlikely to survive, right?
Yes.
You were in shock.
Yes.
You were pretty open with police, telling them a
So
lot.
here, every time he asks these questions, was like, you were in shock. She closes her eyes for a minute and then says yes. it's significant because it's like she wants to belong, like when a kid, covers their face so you don't see them. I personally doubt that she was in shock. But anyway, then again, I don't know.
A lot of things, right?
They kept telling me they needed my help, and so I kept trying to help.
Now, you remember on direct, Miss Kappelman asked you about this interview.
Okay, so she's saying that they kept needing her help, so she was trying to help. Was she trying to help, or did she want to clear herself as a possible suspect, which she had stated that she thought she could be a possible suspect by bringing up a lot of other people, such as her family members, all of Amy's family members, particularly Amy's ex-husband. She liked that one. She brought that up a lot. And also then when her friend Jane stopped by, she mentioned Jeff Lacasse. So there were a lot of other possibilities that she helped about.
Yes.
And she asked you about all the people you mentioned during the interview, including Charlie.
Yes.
And you said I was just wheeling off names, right?
Yes.
In fact, isn't the first person in the interview that you mentioned was yourself?
Yes.
You said that you would understand if you were viewed as the prime suspect, right?
Yes.
Before you mentioned anyone else, you mentioned yourself.
Yes.
You told them about the motion to relocate.
I did.
You told them about...
Nothing says innocence like mentioning yourself as the prime suspect and then saying, no, maybe it was my family. Oh, no, maybe it was this person or that person. But it's like you're branching out from yourself, and the first people you mention are the people nearest to yourself. And, it seems like it was pretty accurate.
About
So
the
she was
fight
helpful.
you had with Professor Markel that very morning about some swimming for the boys.
Yes.
You were spitting out a lot of ideas.
I was.
And you agreed to let the police search your phone.
Yes.
You agreed to let the police search your car.
Yes.
That's where they found that picture that I wasn't able to admit of the invitation of the Bullet Bourbon, right?
Yeah.
You agreed to be fingerprinted.
Yes.
You agreed to be checked for gunshot residue.
Yes.
You gave them your computer to be searched.
I did.
You were expecting to spend the night in jail
Towards
and
the end of your
surprised when they
interview,
let you go.
You asked the police officer if you could call your parents, right?
I did.
And the police allowed you to do that.
Yes.
And you called your mother's cell phone sometime around 7:04 p.m.
Yes.
And you spoke to your mom. I don't know if you remember, but you remember your dad being in the shower because they were going out to dinner.
I don't
You
remember.
found out that your mother was
Your
surprised.
mom didn't answer, actually, the first call, and you called back a couple minutes later and she answered. Do you recall that?
I don't.
And when you called your mom, she was surprised.
Yes.
Oh, her mom was surprised. So her mom had nothing to do with it. She was surprised, according to Wendi. So if her mom was surprised, her mom had nothing to do with it. Her mom's not on trial right now. Her brother is.
And you asked her to call Charlie and tell him what happened, right?
Yes.
Because she didn't want to speak to Charlie.
You didn't
Because who
speak
knows
to Charlie
what he'd
that
say.
day, right?
I don't think so.
On July 19th, the next day, you spoke to Charlie at 10:50 in the morning. You won't know the exact time, but do you recall speaking with him in the morning?
I honestly don't.
Do you recall letting him know that Professor Markel had passed away in the early morning?
I don't remember the conversation.
when your parents came directly to Tallahassee, correct?
They did.
They stopped in Orlando, and they got there on the morning of the 19th, right?
Yes.
And when they got there, they were scared and frantic, right?
Yes.
Your dad didn't sleep. He couldn't get police protection, so he's planted his chair in the front of your window to make sure that no one was going to come to your house and shoot it up, right?
Clearly, nobody was threatening Harvey Adelson at that time. So for the dad to be scared because a law professor in Tallahassee had been shot, even if you believed it was a disgruntled student or Amy's relatives or even Jeff Lacasse, why would they then go after Harvey? Harvey was scared of getting caught.
Right?
Correct.
Allegedly.
Now, you all attended a memorial service on the 20th, right?
Yes.
And you arranged for the Markells to see the boys after the memorial service, right?
They all came over to my house.
And
She
you
arranged,
left Tallahassee,
or they
correct?
asked
Not on the 20th. No.
On the 21st.
Yes.
the next day.
And when you left Tallahassee on the 21st, did you bring all your belongings?
I brought some swimsuits for the boys and some pajamas.
I didn't
and I
bring
thought we'd be back in
everything.
a day or two.
She didn't bring everything to Tallahassee 2 days after her ex-husband was murdered. Therefore, Charlie is innocent. Again, why is this all about protecting Wendi, allowing Wendi to put all of this on the record so that she can, if any of these topics are brought up, she's already spoken about them with her, whatever the immunity is, but, somebody else can comment on this, who knows, but it really seems that Rashbaum is really working hard to help Wendi out, and he's got the ridiculous story that insults the jury for Charlie.
And when you left, you were not yourself.
I was a mess.
You got to South Florida and you realized that you could not take care of the boys alone at this point in time.
I was.
Could she take care of the boys alone at other parts in time if it wasn't her parents coming up to Tallahassee to watch them or to help her drive? She shared custody with Dan Markel, who had them half the time, and then she had Jeff Lacasse watching them after she dated him for a few months. You always want to introduce your children to all of the people you've been dating for a few months, so that way they have lots of people going in and out of their lives. I'm being sarcastic.
I hadn't slept in days and I was terrified.
To get a little more specific, you wouldn't leave the house.
No.
And you would hardly eat.
Are we supposed to be feeling sympathy for Wendi right now because she had trouble eating and because she was feeling nervous? Her ex-husband had been shot. Her in-laws had their children taken away after 2 days after they came down to Florida, or maybe 1 day after they came down, after their son had been killed. And right now, her brother is actually in jail. So whether she was troubled by her eating habits or felt nervous, really, that's par for the course. And this, trying to make the jury feel sorry for her for some reason is really, I think he's failing to understand the situation. But she's explaining herself she couldn't eat, and that's why she
I wasn't
wasn't
eating, no.
celebrating when she went out to eat and threw up in Miami. or
And
South Beach.
ultimately, you decided not to come back to Tallahassee.
I mean, I made that decision much later, but
And you had a friend who you grew
She didn't come to back to Tallahassee to live in Tallahassee. So when she says much later, it's not like she came back to Tallahassee and did all those things you planned. She left Tallahassee, which was her intention before any of this. So I'll stop now, and maybe I'll continue if this is anything anybody likes. Thanks for listening.